So This is Scully Says, and we show up usually once a week if we're lucky. And so we have Patrick and Colin here, and Patrick's going to tell us something. I know he's going to say something.
Well, I was just gonna say, of course, like, subscribe, and share to anyone that you can. I'm gonna try and get it all right now. We're on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and the Apple Podcasts app. TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok.
I know. There's one more I'm missing.
YouTube? You said YouTube, right? That was first one.
Yeah, I see YouTube, the other spot. But either way, anywhere you get a podcast, we're trying to be on there. Anyone has any advice for something better for us to be on as well, we'd, of course, look into that.
And the best thing that you could do for us is share.
Yeah, sure. And I've told you, I think I've mentioned numerous times, TikTok. The thing I like about TikTok, I have hundreds of women after me now, hundreds. Try to keep a low profile. It doesn't work though. They found me. You see what I'm saying? And they're asking me if I'm lonely and if I need companionship and that type of thing. And
That's that algorithm they're talking about.
oh,
Floodgates now.
I guess it's a we talk law, politics, and everything else. I think they're looking at the everything else part of it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
So today, more specifically, our topic that we had chosen was Greenland, because obviously that's a very interesting, not even, I wouldn't even call it an issue at this point, not the summit's passed. It's just an interesting topic, which for the first time in months, I would say, we actually get to have a topic that's a President Trump based topic, kind of. He's the one who brought this to the table, but it's not really that polarizing. I mean, there's some people who would like to paint it in that way, but I mean, unless you're Danish or something like that, or from Greenland, there's really most countries don't appear to feel too much either way about it. They don't really seem to care.
Yes. Well, I'm very amazed that Denlick has stood up. You see, and they sent the crack troops out there. I believe 30 of them, so they'll be able to withstand the pressure of the United States. There's no doubt about that.
Here, the UK sent literally one individual.
Oh yes.
Really?
Well, this outfit. They're militarily. There's something to be feared. You heard about the Second World War, have you not, sir?
Of course.
Well, they're the Danes, and the Danes put up a tremendous amount of resistance during the Second World War against the Nazis. I believe it lasted 3 to 4 hours, and they were occupied after that time. Don't you see? And they're occupied for the entire amount of the war, and they
I
were.
don't want to. Sorry, I didn't want to skip too far ahead, but would you mind mentioning who you stopped that from?
Ah, well, I didn't have to mention that, you see, because Mr. Trump, he did mention that, and he not only mentioned that in regards to the Danes, which is appropriate, but he also mentioned that most of Europe would now be speaking German if it hadn't been for the United States. Don't you see? He said, but not entirely. He said some of them would be speaking Japanese. You see, so yes, well that gets us into that gets us into another area. But I thought just a little background on Greenland. Of course, it doesn't make much sense, but Greenland is a lot colder than Iceland.
Hmm.
No, that doesn't make any sense. It's not very green, and
Has been frustrating to me as a kid looking at them on the globe and yelling that, because people know that, and then you're like, how? Like, how is that? Why?
Yeah.
and then it's also interesting to take a look at it on the map. If you have a picture of it on a map, the landmass is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's 10 times at least the size of Iceland, at least 10 times the size,
It has to.
and it's the least populated country in the world. I think you got maybe one person per square mile, but whatever it is, it's a very it's not very densely populated. Anyway, so I guess that was it. But so, what were you going to say about Greenland, sir?
Well, So a couple things. First thing, totally understand everyone's reaction initially when Trump's like, "Oh, we're gonna buy Greenland," when he said that like what, a year ago or 7 months ago, something like that. I get that reaction. That could seem scary, very imperialistic, whatever. But the actuality of that is, we have, two threats that are actual active threats to national security at all times. It's China and it's Russia. They at all times are interested in, I guess I don't even want to say that like they're necessarily their governments or the people really care this, but their vested interest lies sometimes with us having failure. Sometimes our downfall can be good for them. And so those countries are always going to be at odds with us until that's kind of not the way that it goes. And so having, we've already been down to Venezuela, and Venezuela now has military presence. There's a strategical, right on the where Venezuela is. It's right on the top of South America. That's a huge point where if someone were to say come around Africa and try and come up through the Atlantic Ocean for an invasion or anything like that, now we've got a pinch point right there. We don't have one in the Arctic Circle, really. We have small bases. We have operations already in Greenland, but the objective is to have actual, a good amount of military in that area so that if the Russians were to try and attack via the Arctic Circle, or if someone were to try and come via the Arctic Circle or come from Northern Europe down, if they were to do anything like that, we kind of have a grasp on that. We have easily deployable tactical teams, all that type of stuff, okay? The other part about it is they have a massive amount of natural resources. Massive amount of natural resources. And like you said, they're extremely not densely populated. So it's kind of one of those things where the hope was, or is still, is even though, of course, you don't ever want to like claim another country's natural resources, that can lead to a whole bunch of issues, obviously. It's not like they're being used, and it's not like it could be a mutually beneficial deal to have American interests there too. You know what I mean? So like, it's one of those things where, again, if you're a local Greenland person, I totally understand the not liking it at all, not wanting any change, not wanting. That's totally fair. Everyone feels that way about their own backyard. But politically, as a whole, as an American, I mean, it's really just it's a total win. There's no negative for us really.
Yeah, right. And I think that's the point a lot of people are missing. Like, people are so caught up in, United States politics and everything, and they might not be happy. And they're so caught up on hating the United States that they forget that, like, we do have, like, actual enemies that they want to see us fail. And they don't realize, like, like, some things, like, may be a little controversial and everything, but is this going to make us better for the next, like, let's say 20 to 50 years in our country? Like, yeah, it will, like, tremendously, right? So I think that's like the point that a lot of people are missing.
Well, I think that if you actually think about it, there would be very little change to Greenland. Very little change. There's not going to be a whole bunch of Americans running there trying to set up housing there. That's not going to happen because it's a very, very brutal climate. And so unless you're an Inuit, by and large, you don't want to live there. And so the living arrangements for the people that live there would really not alter very much. And so what it would do is it would give us sovereignty, that we might have some control over the place. But other than that, there'd be very little difference to the people that live there. And I think it's more like it reminds me of the different teams that have moved from the United States. So when you had the Brooklyn Dodgers, when they left the Brooklyn and they went to warmer climes, you had people outraged. They had to sneak out during the middle of the night, but it meant it made very little difference to New York. It made very little difference to the rest of the country. But people, they felt that they had some type of ownership with the Brooklyn Dodgers, you see. And so it's kind of the same thing, I think, with Greenland. They feel as though they have some type of ownership. And if the United States would come in, even though it would change basically nothing, it would just infuriate them for whatever reasons. And the Danes are. I don't see how that would affect them either. but I don't think they're all that interested in Greenland in the first place. Nor do I think that they've made much use of the natural resources there. So I think that it would help both of those places if the United States came in there and developed the place and made some money for both themselves and for Denmark. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that's I think the Dodgers is actually a super good analogy to it because it's exactly that, right? The Brooklyn Dodgers were beloved to a lot of people. There were people who did love it, and that was their team. But once they left, very quickly, those people became Yankees fans or Metropolitan fans. That's the way that went. You know what I mean? Eventually, you filtered back out into the two teams that were already there, and you became a fan of one of those teams. And maybe there's occasional guys, a guy who's maybe Uncle Joe's age, who might be still a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, so he watches the LA Dodgers and is still upset they're over there. But, it was better for the team. It was ultimately better for New York because they got two, I think, higher quality teams for a longer period of time. The Dodgers are now really, really good, but, for a long time, I think they got two higher quality teams. And then it was good for LA, It was good to have a baseball team with actual culture out there. So it's one of those things that it might be icky for some people who are involved with it, but it's not bad for anyone involved. And it's the same thing with Greenland. I agree with you. I mean, what is not even, I'm not even mad that they don't develop a lot with it, but it's just if you have this massive piece of land with all of these rare earth minerals and you know that the time that we're in is requiring more of these things, and you're doing nothing to excavate it, nothing to, try and get these resources out, I feel well, maybe it wouldn't have been us. Maybe Canada would have been the next one to poke around that stick and say, hey, maybe we want Greenland,
Right. And the last thing you want too is China or Russia being your neighbor too, right? You wouldn't want them being up there.
No, I think they said that basically it's kind of equidistance. It's equidistance from I guess from China or Russia to the United States. So it would be relatively easy to lob something into the United States from Greenland or vice versa. And so we certainly wouldn't want to have anything like that. And
again, you would control one of the bigger shipping lanes in the world.
Yeah.
Everything that goes through into Canada and goes over to Scandinavia, Northern Europe, all of those shipping lanes are now completely owned by a foreign power. That's just crazy dangerous. And then just to give an idea of people where Greenland actually is in a very real and material way, the Titanic was going from where was it? It was Northern Ireland to New York, I think. Yeah, so Belfast, New York.
Yes.
It is off the coast of Greenland or Iceland, but right in between the two. I think it's off the coast of Iceland actually. But it's right there. It's between the two. So that's the idea of people will think, oh, that's shipping lane. Who uses it? Santa Claus? It's no, no, that's one of our direct shipping lanes to the other civilized, part of the world that we do business with all the time. So it's actually very important strategic holding. And then on top of that too, you have this giant place, giant expanse that's very hard to keep track of anything going on in it. The last thing you would want is someone setting that up as surveillance on the U.S. as using it for intelligence purposes, right? That's one of those strategic holdings that another country can have that would play very much like Israel does for us in the Middle East, where it's basically just their intelligence hub. And that's not a good thing either. You don't want intelligence being that close to you either. You kind of want to, it seems isolationist, but you do not want people who are adversaries or potential adversaries to be having any access to your country as best as you can stop it,
Well, I think that perhaps the way that Trump approached it, where he said we're going to take it, and it kind of put Denmark on the defensive. I think it possibly could have been handled a little bit better with negotiating behind the scenes, because I think it could be very beneficial to everybody involved, Denmark included.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think it would be wildly beneficial to Denmark, especially if if we're sharing the country this country with them, right, per se. So if we do that, that allows us to kind of have a different type of deal with that, right? We don't have to deal with them like through a lens of NATO or through a lens of the EU or anything like that. Now we're kind of like cousins, or we're family a little bit. We're part of a we use the same country, right? And so it would just allow for their economy to kind of piggyback off of our economy. Maybe they're not interested. Maybe Denmark officials don't care about that. But to me, I think it's just a way to make it so that every Danish person almost effectively has like a dual citizenship type situation, because if we were sharing a country like that, for sharing a sovereign land, it would lax those requirements for a Danish person wanting to visit the U.S. or for a U.S. person wanting to visit Denmark, probably. Like, and I think that those type of things, like when you talk about the idea of like global entry, like one ID or whatever, that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. But when you talk about two countries having a handshake deal, where like kind of like us in Canada, where you live in Detroit and you cross over to Windsor, they're not looking at your car with the flashlights. They're usually just like, all right, see, like they know you're commuting. Like having that sort of attitude with a place like Denmark, I would imagine it would only benefit them, and culturally it would for sure benefit us. They have great engineers, they have great designers, they have a lot of really good stuff. I don't need a stereotype. They just had a lot of really cool stuff there that I feel like us working together it would only be good. But
I think Denmark's response to this whole thing is just them trying to stand up for themselves, because they're kind of put on the stage of the world now, and they have Donald Trump, yelling at them on TV every day. And I think they kind of but they also got to, I think they're going to realize these things too, or they probably already do, right? And one thing that you were saying, Tom, about Trump's approach, I think his approach to a lot of things is that, he'll come off like he wants 100% of something when he only really wants, half of it, right? And then that way, when he's doing the deals and settling with people, he could settle halfway with them and, maybe get 75 or 80% of something that he only, was assuming to get 50 of.
You order the deal.
Yeah, great. You like that, yeah.
No, truly, it's truly, if you read the book, that's really what he does. And that's kind of the thing, right? So he knows he paints a target on his back. And mind you, I'm not painting this guy as some crazy manipulative genius here, all right? Like he definitely has his own faux pas, right? But he says, I'm going to take Greenland and we're going to own Greenland as the 51st state. So now, when the deal comes up that indefinitely the U.S. military could use Greenland and we can indefinitely use their natural resources, which is, by the way, if you went from nothing to that being a deal, that sounds horrific for anyone involved. It's like, wait, you could just do whatever you want here for perpetuity? That's crazy. But when it goes from owning it to now we'll just be like long-term residents, who really won that deal? Now, the Danish could very easily walk away from that feeling like, hey, I mean, he said he was going to own a piece of our territory. We still own it. That's still ours. You know what I mean? But in the back of his mind, he's like, yeah, and all I needed was the resources and the strategic military outposts. But that's totally his game. He's very smart with that.
Well, who came up with that? There was a talk. Zelensky gave a talk, and one of the things he talked about was Europe, and I think he was right on. See, Europe should be a world power. But instead of being a world power, it's a bunch of these little countries that basically have no power whatsoever. Witness the talk going back to the Second World War, talking about when Germany, the Nazis, took over. They came into countries like Poland, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Greece, Italy, Portugal, Spain. They just took them over. Yeah, no resistance. Yeah, no resistance whatsoever. The only thing they did was threw their hands up and said, "We surrender." They're completely powerless. Whereas if they had been somewhat united, and I think that was the idea, not well thought out, but that was the idea with the European model where you had the EU. The idea was to bring them together, but they didn't think it out well, and as a result, they allowed for free immigration from all over the world, which is not a good thing. And there are many places in Europe now that are unrecognizable. and you have people from the third world countries coming in there, using up all the resources, and Sweden has become a very dangerous place. I mean, it's unbelievable. Sweden has become a
I find it interesting that a continent which largely its largest export, in my opinion, is culture,
yeah.
and I think that that's what it provides the best to the world. I think it does other stuff great, but
That's a good one. Yeah.
where it shines, So what you do best is culture, and you're going to import a bunch of other culture, and that's going to like not change like materially the like way that your country feels and is to like be it. Like of course it is. Like it's just why why would you do it?
And if Europe gives culture to the whole world, then that would mean like the whole world would eventually change because of that.
And I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Tommy, if we go into Islam, which is basically what we're talking about, kind of without actually mentioning it, but you have these countries that are coming from these immigrants coming from Syria, coming from Palestine, coming from all over the Middle East, coming into Europe. If you take a look at their culture, there's very little culture there, actually, to tell you the truth, and they're not exporting the culture to any place. And so as a result, what you're having is you're having less culture coming out of Europe, and well, for example, what is the most common birth name in England right now?
probably Muhammad.
That is correct.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That is correct. So and so the face of Europe, which is basically giving the United States its culture, and that did the same thing for Canada, is changing. So who knows what's in store, but they certainly had they thought it up better and they had been one united country, they certainly would have been a force to reckon with. And when you're talking about the culture and so on, Germany, of course, is not doing all that well right now, but that is a manufacturing powerhouse. And, some of the stuff that they've brought out, and had they all been united, they could have done a great deal of good for the country, and they could have stood up as being a very powerful country in and of themselves. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my take on what's that.
I feel like one of the things that I will say, I'll push back a tiny bit, but I do actually agree with the essence of your point. I think the Middle Eastern Islam, Muslims do have a culture. It's that it's not like traditional European culture where European culture doesn't matter. It doesn't care if you're Irish or British or whatever. It's like the things that you do make up the culture. Well, the things that they do that make up part of their culture is like only for them. So we're never like allowed to see it. So I think there is a culture there. It's just that instead of it being a culture like ours, which is like literally bending over backwards and destroying itself to become inclusive, theirs doesn't care about inclusivity at all. It doesn't care about adding us as like players in their game at all. They don't care. Also, one thing I had to say is I think that the problem wouldn't even be that it's importing a lot of Islamic people or that you're importing a bunch of whatever people could be anywhere. It doesn't matter. I don't think that would be the big deal. The problem was that it was made a morality conversation. If any country wanted to elect to for logical reasons or because they needed more people or whatever to invite another culture in, and maybe it changed the culture, developed the culture differently, or even took over the culture, I could see that, and that's fine. My problem is that to all of the people who look like you or I or anything like that live in Europe, they were told they were morally like bad if they weren't accepting of these cultures being, kind of flooded in.
Right.
Bad things may have happened in those places, and they may deserve somewhere else to be. But we can see that it's very much not that anymore. It's not about giving someone a leg, giving Middle Easterners or North Africans a leg to stand on right now. It's not about that. They're running the table in these countries. And even really in our country, in a large part, I mean, we talked 2 weeks ago about the Somalian fraud and everything like that. I mean, that's the same shit. Those people were invited into the country. I don't even want to say those people. That sounded spicy, but like that culture was invited here because there was issues in their home country, and they were almost kind of grouped in with like the South American refugees in that same movement. And that happened in Europe too. And my problem is like, so if we're helping these people, but now we're seeing like actual large scale fraud, large scale crime, when does the morality argument stop now? When do we say, if say, and these are not true statistics, but just say in Springfield, we added 30,000 or something like that, 30,000 Somalians, I think. And the town has a population like 40,000. It was crazy. It's a difference. I see Somalians, and not so much Somalians, Haitians was a lot of what we got. Haitians. And don't get me wrong, I got a lot of Haitian customers. They're nice people. There's no static between me and the Haitians. But if you told me that 50% of all crime in Springfield now is committed by recent Haitian immigrants, I wouldn't believe you because Springfield kind of sucks and there's a lot of crime there. But that should be something that could be dealt with, though. Whereas in reality, if that were the case, if 50% of all crime in Springfield was committed by fresh immigrants, you would never be able to say that. That'd be political suicide.
Right.
What side of the aisle you stand on? You can't say that.
And that's what everyone's torn between in the United States right now is like, do we give these people our morality or do we don't? And that's where everyone's bumping heads.
Or you have to hold rigid to the morality of, Katie Couric or whatever. Like, it's like these people who tell you this on TV. It's like, I don't know why Katie Couric got astray. She's fine. But like anyone, right? Like, why do I give a shit what anyone has to say to me about morality? That's like a politician. It's like, that generally speaking, to become a politician, you have to step over X amount of people.
Exactly.
So it's like, or what your purview of morality is,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think I think one of the things that really screwed us up was political correctness. You have to speak in a certain way. You can't mention your real feelings because otherwise that would be politically incorrect. And when you're talking about these countries and the different cultures that are brought here, you see, by their own admission, our culture is better than their culture. And how can I say that? Why do I say that? Is because you do not see people from Europe, people from Germany, people from France rushing into Egypt, rushing into Syria. They're not doing that, and the reason is they don't want to be there. But by the same token, people from Somalia, people from Egypt, people from Pakistan, wherever, they want to be in Europe. And the reason is, of course, you want to go to a place that you consider to be beneficial to you. And so and get away from a place that's not beneficial to you. And so by their own admission, by immigrating to Europe or immigrating to the United States, they're admitting in a backwards sort of way that the culture in the United States or the benefits of the United States is superior. And of course, a lot of that is economic. But the reason the United States is economically superior is because of its culture. And the two go hand in hand.
And exactly that, right? And so that's something that I struggle a lot with, like my kids at the shop. So like I've said many other times, I work in a very left-leaning area. A lot of my opinions, probably if I said them in plain English, people would get really upset about. Whatever. But I also try to be compassionate too. I try and hold the two values at the same time. Like, I'm going to tell you what I think, but also if I'm say this is stupid and you're like, but I am this, I'm not going to be like, and you're stupid. I'm going to be like, oh, well, all right, let me understand more about this.
Yeah.
That said, the kids at my work are very susceptible to the ideas of like socialism and communism, and I'm not going to get into political theory. I don't know. I'm not educated on the matter in a way that I should be to really talk about that. But what I will say is the reason that America is the way that it is, the reason that we have phones the way that we have phones, the reason that we have cars the way that we have cars, the reason that everyone has one or two cars in this day and age. Not everyone, but most people in middle class above have two cars or have a, the reason that is because of the way that it is. It's implicit of the way that America acts. Our culture is partially the capitalist system that we also thrive in, right? Like that is an inalienable part of being an American, is the idea of like progressing. You know what I mean? And I feel like one thing that just bugs me is the idea of, I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna lecture you about, as like an immigrant or even as like a younger, like not even come over here. I'm gonna be like someone who has engaged in the system, the financial system yet. I'm gonna tell you that this is the way that it should be done. It's gonna get picked up by mainstream media. It's gonna be heralded by other talking heads here and there. And we're gonna have this whole conversation in theory when all of us who like pay bills and everything like that understand, like, as bad as it is, like, it's a better situation than it could be. You know what I mean? The things that built America still do exist and are still like the main like fundamental arts of our actually govern. You know what I mean? It's like our culture in America of progress still exists under conservatism, still exists under liberalism. So, it's like it's the thing that makes us us, is that progress, is that capitalism, almost like consumerism, stuff like that is unfortunately always tied to American culture. And like all of the good that we have does come out of that. There's plenty of that, but like all of the good comes from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when America's good, I believe the rest of the world is good too. When America booms, the rest of the world booms. And there's examples like when you look at World War II, we could have easily like imperialized like every country. We had the nuclear bomb and we had Europe and all that, but we didn't. We rebuilt them. We rebuilt Japan and all of that stuff. And so maybe people freaking out about things happening and stuff changing, but if America's gonna boom, the rest of the world's gonna boom, and maybe in 3-4 years we'll be having a different conversation. Like people are gonna be thinking differently.
Well, and what you said is so true though, right? Like when America steps up to the plate, all of the couch potato countries in the rest of the world are like, well, I would have done it this way. Well, I would have done it that way. Well, I would have done it this way. We hit dingers, dude. It doesn't matter. Okay?
And they all step up as well.
Yeah, like these things go out of the park every time we're up to the plate. Anytime you put us in a situation as a country where it's like, hey, you could become the like megalomaniac, control the world country, or you can just like restore people's sovereign rights. We always choose the route that lets people stay sovereign. You know what I mean? It's not like after World War I and World War II, we were over here like, well, technically, and I need this cut. And technically, we walked in there like a mob boss if we wanted to. The past 80 years could have been America being essentially like a mob boss, just running the pockets of anyone. Let's say, you know what we did? We paid for them to rebuild. We built, structures of power for them to rebuild. Yeah. We found the most disenfranchised culture of all of the people in that war. We found them a country.
Yeah. Like, we dropped an atomic bomb on a country and we built it back up.
And we paid to build it back better.
Yeah.
Well, a perfect example is a place called Cuba. Cuba used to be a possession of the United States. And we said, okay, you want to go on your own, you can go on your own. So, of course, they did. So they were somewhat corrupt, but extremely, they were extremely successful, made a lot of money, and everybody's driving around fancy cars and blah, blah. But there were these folks that were sitting in the library saying, no, we could do a lot better than this, don't you see? And so it became very exciting for these guys to run around in khakis, in camouflage suits, a guy by the name of Castro, who decided that he was going to help everybody. He became a millionaire in the process, as well as everybody in his family. And unfortunately, they say now that they have old ladies digging in garbage pails, getting something to eat. You see, and so the thought is that Cuba at the end of the year is going to completely collapse, and when it collapses, the United States will probably have to come in and rescue it.
And they say that's this year.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They said at the end of this year, I mean, they're in that bad a shape, and this is communism at its core. This is Mandami's vision. It came in. It's very very similar. They came in, they took it over, and get rid of all the rich guys, get rid of all the doctors, get rid of all the people that were making all the money. They ran for their lives. Some of them got on a raft. They came across, some of them drowned, but they came into a place called Miami, a place called Florida, and they took over a lot of Florida. And Florida is basically one of the more successful states in the country right now. So these folks that they want to get rid of have become extremely successful over here, and the people that were left in charge of Cuba, they ended up bankrupting the place, and that's where we are.
Well, and also it goes out saying that one of the big elements of the Cuban situation was they became a kind of the other thing, but then they also decided to be like aggressively anti the U.S. And so then we were just like, okay, you're done trading with us and our allies, and that happens to be most countries. So they were just kind of, and now you'd have some new cars in Cuba, but generally the average car on the streets is usually like 40 years old now. And like, that's just one of those things. But that's a country where that if you want to say like the Twitter leftists, like that's a country where like the Twitter leftists got to run the country, basically, like that's a lot of the stuff that you hear as rhetoric spout about X or spout about Instagram or spout about whatever. That's a lot of the rhetoric you hear is like, oh, we need to do exactly what Castro did, or we need to, give the meat back, keep blah, blah, whatever. I'm not saying you're a bad person to be a communist, but like, I mean, just like show me the one time that it's even like begun to work, and I will like start to change my opinion on it. But like until then, I'm sitting here looking at the system that sucks and looking at our system that has a bunch of problems, but like ostensibly doesn't suck, right?
Yeah, we at least prosper.
Yeah, like we put shit in space and like do whatever we want at all times. Like literally, our country does whatever it wants at all times. So it's like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm not even trying to be arrogant or whatever, like in America about it. I'm just being real. Like, how am I supposed to look at that and then be like, oh, you know what? Like China is so much better. It's like every single time China moves, there's like 20 people with a knife at their throat. Like, hey, like watch it, And it's like, for us, we're just as threatening to the rest of the world as far as an imperialistic sense. We should be just as threatening, if not more. And we at least get to go to summits and be treated, even when they don't like Trump. He's at the summit. You know what I mean? He's got his chair. He's got his name thing. He's got whatever. It just feels like we don't get treated like some supervillain country like everyone who lives here would like to paint it out that we are. And so then I'm like, okay, so that's about me. We're prosper. We're treated normal. Like, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that has a big factor to do with we got all the money, and all the money's filtering through us, and the U.S. dollar is also a standard, at least for right now. But we don't know for the next 10 years that could change. Hopefully not though, right? But
yeah. Well, it just seems as though I don't see that there's anything that's come along that's superior to our way of doing things.
Right.
And you just mentioned in passing about China. I could tell you that what's happening right now in Minnesota, that's happened in China before, but China has a different way of handling it, and we don't hear too many objections to that. There was a thing called Tiananmen Square where they brought the tanks into the
But to this day, just to let you know how aggressive that censorship is, to this day, if you're playing a video game with a Chinese player in it, and you to type Tiananmen Square, I think it's 1989, a lot of those games will hit them offline because they're not allowed to even talk about it. There is no
really,
about it. Yeah. Yeah, if you're ever losing in Rivals and there's a Chinese player,
Yeah, I might have to pull that move off now.
it'll right off my yeah, same word. But it's when we're on par with a government that doesn't let you post pictures of Winnie the Pooh because their leader is so insecure that Winnie the Pooh looks like him that he like has it completely scrubbed to the internet. Like when we are up against a country like that, like run by an actual like cartoon supervillain pretty much, and we're toe to toe with them, and we I mean, don't get me wrong, Trump could also kind of be a cartoon supervillain too, like, but like
He is in a sense. Like he posts like AI slop on his like Instagram to get people riled up and all that. Crap on
people said him showing up to the Davos thing,
Yeah.
the aura thing of him walking alone, he's walking like his shoulders,
Or he'll be in a throne with a crown. Let's say like Trump 2028. Like on a Monday, like
it's like we're there and we can, you could post like F the government, F all of our allies, F this, and you could be standing outside the White House and like the worst thing that would happen to you is someone would be like, you're a loser. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
and you're a jerk.
yeah, right. Like we live in like our stakes are different. Like these people when they're freedom fighters and they're protesting and whatever, they're actually putting their life on like it's been to our country that you can do that shit. Like that's unheard of. But the problem is someone said this quote to me a long time ago. I don't know where the quote comes from, so if anyone knows the origin, much appreciated. But the quote is that traditions are solutions to problems we've since forgotten. And I think that concept is applying right now in real time with the American experience. We're glossing over all of the shit that got fixed and all of the shit that's better and everything like that. And we're looking at what could be better as the only things that are like real. You know what I mean? But we're not looking behind us at the stack of good and bad. But we're not looking behind us at the stack of all the decisions that got us to this point. And that, the government has been working it and whittling laws and, becoming what it's becoming and becoming more formed. That doesn't matter because right now we could fix this. We're not going to look at this because we could fix this, and that's like a bad ideology too, because you'll just always spin your wheels. You're always going to be mad about something. The government's always going to be disenfranchised. You're always going to need, something different or something, whatever. So I think honestly, generally what I'm trying to say is, I'm not going to dismiss anyone's bad experience with America, but America's been very good to me, and I'm not super rich or something. And America has been super good to most of my friends who are definitely not super rich. And I think that it doesn't take a lot of looking for understanding to figure out why it's so great for us. I think that it's a lot of people are acting in that faith to make us look worse than we are.
Well, a lot of times what happens is you have what they call comparative. What you do is you compare yourself to others. If you take a look at the people in some of the worst areas in our country, they live better than 90% of the world. So, no, this poor guy is terrible. He's listening to ghetto. But he's got an automobile. He's got a television. He's got new clothes on in his back. He's got a phone. He's got all kinds of things that the rest of the world doesn't have. I'll give you two examples that come to mind. Remember Germany? They had what they call West Germany and East Germany. East Germany was communist, and they was doing this guy Reagan. He told them to take the wall down, and he's a right-winger, of course. They took the wall down. Everybody from the East ran to the West. You didn't have anybody from the West running to the East. That just didn't happen. And even a more perfect example of that, or a realistic example of that today, is Korea. You got South Korea, which is extremely capitalistic. Yeah, they like that capitalism. They've got the Kias coming into the country. They've got the Hyundais coming into the country. So they've got the Samsungs coming into the country. They've got all kinds of stuff coming into the country. They're making money hand over fist. These people are doing extremely well. And you look across the border, and the people are starving. The same people, the same kind of people, the same nationalities, the same look. They're starving to death. They're starving to death. And if you give the
1 mile
yes
separates it.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
You give the guy any nonsense, he'll kill you. He had a bunch of people that were in his cabinet that they didn't clap loud enough, or didn't, and he killed them all. Killed them. Yeah, just and so that's and so, but you've got people that are complaining about the way in which this government works over here, but yet they've yet to come up with anything better. So
Well, that's my thing is right, like complaining with no solution. You're kind of just a fucking pain in the ass. Sorry, but you just are. And like with anything I talk about on here, anything probably anyone really talks about, it's not that I'm just not susceptible to that. I do that too, for sure. But like, if you're the type of person who has nothing to talk about in their regular life and has nothing going on in their like immediate like hobbies / like larger friend group, whatever, the fact that you would default to complaining about the government, which like, again, in order to complain about the government, you have to have a government that lets you complain about it and maintains the channels with which you complain about it and maintains the sovereignty of this freedom of speech which you use it. Like all of that shit, right? And let's not even get into like the actual like material life sacrifices of people like actually like serving to make that happen. But like all of this, all this is to say is the person who gets to stand up and say like fuck America, to me, my one thing is just like, did you have absolutely nothing better to do? Like, there was nothing you could have done that improved you, improved your family, improved your situation. There's nothing. And I'm not being a bootstraps guy. Like, I literally mean like drinking a couple extra glasses of water that day to like make sure that you're whatever, or like it's just something else should be consuming your mind rather than hating this government that like genuinely doesn't really interfere with your day-to-day life pretty much at all compared to.
And in the grand scheme of things, like one person isn't going to change anything, and like sitting around complaining, like it's not going to change anything. Like you really just got to use the cards that you're dealt with. And when a new card gets dealt, you deal with that one as well.
You have it's in the moment, right? It's like a treadmill or whatever, like a roller road. Like you're trying to, take the punches as they come to you, or take the whatever as it comes to you. You can't like, we don't have a map. You know what I mean? It's not like a video game. There's not a mini map. You just have to read and react.
Right. And as always, that's just how life goes, and that's how it's been forever. I'm sure. Like, I'm sure people in the Roman Empire were doing the same crap. They're sitting around all day complaining. Sometimes if they could speak, I don't really know if they had freedom of speech or any of that, but you know what I mean. So.
Well, I mean, for sure, in Greece, even prior to that, absolutely, that's literally what the Acropolis was, that
It's writings and all that,
yeah, it was just them, like, literally, like, people, like, it was just art, music,
philosophy.
Yeah. Which philosophy, by the way, is always to be qualified under Schiller.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we've kind of buttoned up a lot of the ground on Greenland. I was even saying beforehand, I didn't know if there was a long enough topic, so I did have a bonus topic that we're all going to care about that I thought would be pretty interesting. Speaking of people being in places that they don't belong, you guys saw the Bears make their bid, or make it known that now they're interested in moving to my lovely birthplace, Hammond, Indiana.
I think it's switched to Gary now, but go ahead.
I think they're talking to the city of Gary, but the plot that they're looking at would be it's near the horseshoe at Hammond. So this, hopefully, I mean, I think I'm assuming Arlington Heights, which they already have paid for and is already demolished. I'm assuming they're still going to look at Arlington Heights. It might just be bait to, whatever. But the Indiana government, there you go. Like this is an example of not letting the stupid politics get in the way of success of your state.
Yeah.
They already have another NFL team in Indiana. I think you forget that all the time, but there is another one. It's the Colts. They're in the center of the state. We also have not that I'm too happy about it, but the defending national champions in college football. So it's safe to say that Indiana is feeling pretty good about its football prospects right now. But the Bears coming over, would be a very interesting move. And to me, it's better because it's closer to Midway than Arlington Heights is. It's closer to the city than Arlington Heights is. And I think that if we were to like do a big build out around the stadium and make a big stadium, area, like obviously Hammond kind of sucks, Gary kind of sucks, whatever. But like if you were to build this big giant complex there, you're not going to have the issues of parking and traffic and all those things that you do have every single.
Oh yeah, in the city. Yeah.
Oh, if you're coming right off the expressway.
Right.
Yeah. And so here's the thing, though. It's funny because, of course, the region is part of Chicago. It's liberal and it's democratic, but the state is extremely conservative. Yeah, and as a result, the draw to the Bears is not that it tends to be like Chicago. The draw is it doesn't tend to be like Chicago. It's not like Chicago at all. And if you're looking at the tax bases in Indiana versus Illinois, you see quite a difference. The cost of living is substantially less in Indiana. And I believe, I forget what it is, something like 25,000 people a month or something. It's just a phenomenal number of people that are leaving Chicago coming to Indiana right now. And, it's because it's becoming harder and harder to make a living in Chicago, where people in Indiana have known for years that the way to do it is to live in Indiana and work in Chicago. That's
well, and not for nothing too. I certainly about it ever like in any situation. I'm never a fan of public funds building an NFL stadium unless the citizens of the city own it. Like Green Bay using public.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
But we won't own the Bears Stadium, no matter what. We're not going to own the Bears Stadium. We're not going to have any slice of it, any whatever. It's owned by the McCaskies, which fine. You know what I mean? Get your money, get your casino deal, all that. I respect it. But that's what the real problem is Soldier Field could be where they stay forever, and they could go put a dome on it for cheaper than building the other two stadiums, and they could do new parking. But we have a collective in Chicago called Friends of the Parks, and they basically make it their job to block everything that ever gets developed on the lakefront. To the effect that, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you're driving on Lakeshore and you go past the building that Oak used to live in, which is like these like black, like beard nemes with the guys, on this side of they're on the opposite side of everything else. All the buildings over here, they're the ones that are on this side. Right across from them, right here, is a big fenced-in lot, and in that lot is the foundations for a mega skyscraper, like a not quite a Burj Khalifa and stuff like. But there's the foundations for a mega skyscraper that started 20 years ago. Friends of the Parks was like, nah, we don't want to interblock the U. It'll change the skyline. It'll do this, it'll do that. And some of that there's merit to, but like. It's just I'm usually anti anyone who's anti-development. I think an endless development for no reason sucks. But when there's like a clear direction of like, hey, we want our city to be like Dubai, New York, not even LA is not even up there, but like Dubai, New York, London, places like that where it has this crazy signature skyline with all these crazy, super modern, different little landmarks that you're going to go to around the city, I thought that was a good idea for Chicago. I thought there was really cool, clear direction. I think if there's any city that does architecture the best, it's us. And, I just, it's unfortunate that the stadium's not going to be built right there on the lakefront where it's obviously meant to be because they want to own the stadium and the city doesn't want to sell as that land. And, it's just all of that nonsense. So anyways, I hope it ends up in Indiana. Obviously a hell of a lot more convenient for all three of us. But I also think that, it's good to punish these super stingy left cities and states when they screw you over as a multi-billionaire sports owner. I think you should stick it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but it's something that we've completely overlooked. This would give Mr. Pierogi just an absolute ability because it's in Indiana, don't you see, and it's in the region. He could be like the halftime show. He could get up there, they could be shooting him out of cannons and hoses. All sorts of things. He'd love it,
I gotta start singing and dancing.
Yeah. I think it's something we could work on.
I mean, and I know it's like a not popular, but like Colin, as someone who's younger in this area, like I feel like the northern Chicago suburb kids are like not Chicago suburb kids. You know what I mean? Like it's like a divide.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It is a little bit of a vibe because you recognize that when somebody from Chicago would move down here, it's a little bit different. It's just a city life, and then suburban slash urban slash rural life, depending on where you live in the area.
The thing, like, yeah, if you go like if you not even too far north, but if you go like 20 minutes north of the city, you're getting people wearing cowboy boots like they live out near me.
Yeah.
I don't even live in the South. I think it's crazy when I see cowboy boots, but see cowboy boots within the city limits of Chicago blows my freaking mind. But like, yeah, like I don't know. I just feel like as far as vibes and everything like that, like Indiana does very much, or at least north of here, does very much fit the Chicago suburb vibe. I think a lot more than a lot of like Arlington Heights to me is like not Chicago. Like same thing with like Naperville, Aurora. I know they're Chicago. I know it's whatever, but like those are like
Richer neighborhoods. The culture of like the melting pot isn't really there.
I'll put it to you this way. I don't think that Metro does numbers in those towns. You know what I mean? I don't think that those towns are the towns that's getting a lot of money in the Metro system. Maybe during the week for commuting, people aren't doing weekend passes from Aurora and Naperville and all that. I think the same. I think that the people in those towns stay in those towns, which, no, I'm not shitting on you for it. It's just, it's different than people in Indiana. I feel like a lot of times you do hear, I'm going to the city, not going to the city, or what we're doing, and we think are going to the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's different. It's more value, I think, on our side of the line.
I think one of the things that people overlook is Indiana has a surplus already. And we already have a football team, like we discussed. And if we're adding the Bears, I think they got to be at least in the top 10 of most valuable sports franchises, like right now, across the whole world. And adding that to a state that already has a surplus, it's not going to have the Illinois taxes or regulations. The reason why I think they really wanted to move out of the Soldier Field because they can't have the Super Bowl there, and that can generate a whole bunch of money. And Chicago can't have a Super Bowl because of that. And they kind of messed up with the Arlington Heights deal, and they can go into a state where it has a surplus, and we can have the Super Bowl here, and we could build a new stadium. And I think it's gonna come to Indiana.
I think so too. I think that it's a lot more the leverage because the noise around it just makes so much sense for them as like a business decision.
Yeah.
Unless Chicago turns around and caves really, really hard on some of the demands for Arlington.
Which that could also happen too. I wouldn't be surprised if.
No, I wouldn't either. And honestly, I'm still holding out hope that one of these mayors kind of, says, hey, listen, we're going to give you a 99-year lease with first right of refusal on renewal for you. You could build whatever you want near the stadium. You can't build the casino on those Friends of the Park grounds, but we'll give you, let's say, make available to them some plot right on the other side of Millennium or Grant Park. If there is, well, I guess I don't know how you do a casino in the city of Chicago, but that's what the problem is really they want to do a casino there too, and so I don't know if they're going to be allowed to do a casino in the city of Chicago, but if they were, it would stop all of this issue. As long as they could own the casino, I think that they would be like, all right, we have our casino mega hotel a block from the stadium. We could do it. You know what I mean? But what they're going to build in Indiana or Arlington is essentially, I guess, I'm trying to think of something that's close to it. I think it's LA's SoFi Stadium.
I was going to say, think about like a Los Angeles stadium. I think that's what they're going to go for it because we're valued at like Los Angeles teams value, even though considering how bad we are, the Bears, Bulls, all of them, they do really good with revenue
because we're the only market that doesn't divide its two major teams, the only major U.S. market, because New York has the Jets, Giants, and LA has the Rams and what's the Chargers?
Yeah, Chargers.
And really, let's be honest, Vegas is always just an LA adjacent too. They also have a radius right there, Travis and things.
Yeah, and they were just in California too.
Yeah, there was
a lot of their fans. And
it's sorry, go ahead, boss.
I was going to say, aren't the Giants in New Jersey?
The Giants and the Jets both play at MetLife in New Jersey, but it's in Elizabeth, New Jersey. So it's like right over the water. You can see like the skyline from.
Well, but wouldn't that be the same thing with the bears coming to the region?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's shitloads of precedent. The Giants and the Jets are in, not in the city. SoFi is not in LA proper. It's in like Compton or not Compton, the Inglewood or something like that. The Kansas City Chiefs don't play in Kansas City, Kansas.
They play
Missouri, Missouri,
Yeah.
which is like one of those weird ones. I think they're gonna move though. Actually,
Yeah, they're moving at the same time as the Bears, I think, and they're getting one of the big stadiums too.
yeah, they're doing it. It's them, Buffalo, and one of the teams is building a new stadium. Minnesota, right? Isn't Minnesota finishing up a new crazy stadium, or maybe they just did? But anyways, they're all building these dome things because exactly what Colin said. They want to host the fucking shoot. You know what I mean? So trying to get that revenue, trying to build, those opportunities. I mean, Chicago's the best city to host these things. When we host All-Star Weekend, it's the sickest All-Star Weekend. When we host a Super Bowl, which hasn't had no long time, it's an awesome Super Bowl. When we get a chance to host the Olympics, which building something like this does, again, have be in those conversations. Like, yeah, like we want to do that. Like the Chicago's a world-class city. I mean, are not sitting behind a thing at the World's Fair because it's just like fun. They don't like make posters of World's Fairs because it's just like fun. It's because it actually inspired, generations of architects, designers, and artists to create because it's just such a cool thing. And our city is a wonderful. So I couldn't even say our city, but your guys' city is a wonderful one. It's city, and it's like, blocking that because of money and stupid stuff like that just sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't. I a little bit of disagreement. I think Brandon is doing his best to dismantle the place.
It's at the new man.
Yes, it is. Yeah, no, but so and so in many respects, the crime rate and so on is not really moving in the right direction. Although the crime rate in the country, which is something that we have not talked about, is the lowest it's been since 1900.
Really?
Yeah. That's like an actual statistic. We've had like way less murders this year, and then that could be a factor to anything. People aren't so quick to say Trump yet, but if this is something that continues in a downward spiral, I mean, you could see people saying that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't know that.
I think Chicago also had the least amount of murders since like 2016.
That's good. Excellent.
When I was in high school and I would come and visit you guys, I was always keeping Cali because, cheap geek and all.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Deep in the 400s, and then like unsolved was usually like double that.
I think in 2016 it was in 800s. I'm pretty sure if I remember, because I remember going through this.
Yeah,
800s.
It's just crazy, dude. It's crazy. I did not know that. That's fascinating. So, just to briefly think about that. So if the crime is as low as possible, I'm trying to think of like any factors that would have it to be like maybe ice a little bit, like even not necessarily by like nature of stopping people from doing crimes, but
A lot of arrests. There's a lot of arrests. Right. Fear. A lot of fear too in criminals. A lot of people, maybe if they were illegal or maybe they're legal, but they have family who's illegal, right? They'll maybe think twice to do something that's against the law because they don't want to get them or their families get in the database. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think also that they said that they're putting people away more, and so you have the recidivists that's why they call them recidivists. They come out and do the same thing over again. If they're in the can, well, they can't come out and do the same thing over again. So the people that are committing most of the crimes are being sentenced to longer sentences of being incarcerated, which is expensive, but it's a good thing.
You know what? That's probably actually I hate to paint it one way or the other, but under the left, the one thing that like really, really irked me was, every other week I'd read a story of, boys steal Kia for like the 15th time. Now they killed someone, so now it's a problem. And it's like, yeah, but it was a problem the first time, and it was a problem the second time, and I'll damn sure tell you it was a problem the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, blah 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 time, right? And this kept happening over and over and over again. So maybe if we're gonna give credit to Trump, that's where you give the credit to him, is it's flipped the thought process on that, where it's like, no, there's not going to be some hat on the back for you as a judge for letting people just go free and do crime.
Yeah, like no tolerance on crime. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like, it's funny. It's like with New York when Giuliani was in there. He cleaned the place up, and and so since that time, it has kind of gone back to being somewhat more liberal. It's very liberal now, and so I think the pendulum has swung. But I think that if things work out with Mandami the way that I envision them, I could see the city turning more conservative again. And so every so often, what happens is the place goes to a certain extent, and then it's got to be cleaned up, and somebody comes in there and does the hard brushing, and ruffles a lot of feathers, but cleans the place up, and then, of course, it kind of reverts back to where it was. I think that's what's happened in New York, and I think that's probably what's going to happen here as well.
Yeah, I would say that's the only hope. And honestly, to be frank about when Mamdani, I mean, I actually wish him the best. I do. I do hope that he does well, because it's good. We have Canada in New York, whatever. But I've already just been seeing like some of his plans and some of his ideas, things that he's been giving his attention to versus the things he hasn't given attention to. I would not disagree. I think that New York was on the verge of going red in this last election, and now is, he's got to really pick it up. He's got to really show the city he's doing some kind that's actually making their life better. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what these people are. I mean, it's New York. It's not an easy job. You need results, And honestly, it's one of the biggest faults of Chicago is for some reason we don't have that like level of accountability from the average citizen. Like the average citizen's like, oh, good fuck, you know what I mean? But like it's just like fine, but like also not great. You know what I mean? You'd love to have that New York attitude where it's like, bad politicians, I'm gonna kill you. You know what I mean? Not actually.
That's like the old school New York way of thinking.
Yeah, like exactly. Like I will tell you how I feel. Whereas like the Chicago way of thinking is like,
yeah, like all of our politicians are corrupt. It's whatever.
We called ourselves the Windy City because we've known this for 200 years.
Yeah.
Great. I think that's where they say the windy comes from. The windiest the politicians blowing hot air.
It's not the wind. No, you're absolutely right. It's the politicians' hot air.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it is a particularly windy city. So to have that nickname is wild. To have the politicians be the worst part, but yeah. No, I think I feel like we've covered everything that I needed to cover. I don't know if there's anything else that anyone else has. I think just about the Greenland thing, but I think that it's a good thing. I think that as long as we don't know, there's no deal out yet, but Trump came away from the summit basically saying like, we're going to have indefinite access to the military for military and resource purposes. Who knows if that's him just negotiating more and saying that so that he gets, some half measure of it. But it seems like everyone involved, like even Denmark, instead of being like, don't do that. Now Denmark is like, hey, whoa, don't do anything through NATO. Come talk directly to us.
Yeah.
So that's the forming here. It's that they're coming to a table. So we'll see. We'll monitoring that. That's going to be pretty cool. I think it's just a good idea. It's be for us. And, we're building that strong wall so that if there were to be a sovereign invasion or anything like that, it's good.
The one thing we want to end on, wedding. Do you remember who wedding is? You remember who wedding is? Do you know that? Did we talk about that?
Saying a wedding, I was like, I had one.
Well, we are talking wedding. He's the guy out that they picked up in Mexico.
They picked him up yesterday.
Yes, picked him up, and so I think they were doing some good stuff, maybe with drugs coming across the border as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, slowly but surely, he's changed these promises and he made good on where we're actually going and doing something to people who are stop illegal country.
Yes, so that's a segue. The segue is, I think maybe next time what we could do is talk about the cartels.
Yeah, that'd be a good
Talk about the
topic.
Corshells and talk about sunny Mexico, which a lot of people like to go to. It's got and
able to get a correspondent down there.
oh yeah, yes. But I mean, I've been to Mexico. I like Mexico, you see. But of course, I haven't had my I haven't met any of these gentlemen that really want to change.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, that might be our next subject, and with that, I guess we should sign out before. I think Mr. Pierogi. Does Mr. Pierogi have anything he would say to us?
TikTok.
TikTok. You said
All of the TikTok.
he says
And YouTube. And Facebook.
TikTok. Yeah, I think I think what Mr. Pierogi is a little bit. I tell you, really, I didn't want to bring this up, but I guess I will. I said all these women are coming after me. You see, I think that Mr. Pierogi wants in on the action, but that ain't going to happen.
They don't talk to me.
That's exactly the point. They don't talk to you. He wants them to talk. You see, that's why he says TikTok.
Yeah,
See why
it's on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't.
Not the go.
I know, but anyway. So, but that's what it is. You see, there's a hidden agenda with Mr. Pierogi. First thing is Pierogi Fest, Whiting, and the next thing is the women, and it's one step at a time. He's taking over.
I should have been a lawyer.
You should have been a lawyer. That's what he's saying. All right.
Same way.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I guess with that, we're going to wrap it up. And with that, I will say adieu, goodbye, and until next time, eh?